The blonde woman watched her husband, a scar-faced man, approach her. The sound of his cane and his footsteps echoed on the marble floor of their marital manor. She might have pitied him, but she could never love him. He accused her of infidelity, that she loved another man other than him, that she finds him even more hideous up close. But what he doesn't know was it wasn't because of love that she coveted another man. Love was a luxury she can't afford. She did it out of revenge against this scarred man who had the audacity to still call her his wife when their marriage is already over. Her resentment grew to astronomical proportions as he grabbed her wrist. Refusing to be kept as prisoner, she wrung her wrist free from his grasp and ran away, tripping on the staircase as she did so and met her demise. His cry of agony can be heard across the manor. The thought that she gave him despair in that single moment gave her pleasure. All she remembered was seeing her scarred husband's face crying out in anguish as she took her final breath, ending the 6 years of hell she endured married to him, left her as nothing but a disgraced, unfaithful wife. She'd gladly spend an eternity in hell, if it meant being free from her husband. Death was her consolation, or so she thought. When she regained consciousness, she was back in her father's luxurious manor as a 17-year-old. It sent her crying and acting like a mad woman for 3 days. One of the maids, who was tending to her golden locks, was surprised to see her reading the newspaper after her momentary display of insanity. The year was 1914. It was then that her misfortune began. When her mother died, they led quite a happy life. Her father got obsessed with the luxurious aristocratic lifestyle, while she indulged herself in pretty dresses, unaware of what was happening in the world. Bankrupt, after her father's failed business venture, he hanged himself, and left a note leaving her with nothing. Left without a dowry, she was forced to marry a man she never met and whose face was severely damaged by war. A marriage that can be considered as a stroke of luck despite her circumstances, but ended tragically. Back in her 17-year-old self, she only has one goal: to avoid getting involved with her, was then husband. But fate seemed to be playing her, for during her early morning walk, her father drove by and invited her to ride with him in his carriage. Lo and behold, the very man she is trying to avoid is being introduced to her by her father, as he sat there bathed in sunshine, unscathed, his handsome features unmarred by scars. Awkward silence prevailed, as she observes in disbelief. This handsome man currently sitting across her is the epitome of charm, loves to ride horses, and has an impressive business acumen, a stark contrast to the scarred man she married who was irritable all the time. Her thoughts flew back to the time when she married him. She was 22. Despite the assurance of her husband's butler that his master is a man of good character, what she experienced was the opposite. Ignored and left to her own devices after marriage, he never even cared to visit their bedroom for their wedding night. Her hopes of being his salvation and strength shattered. Her dream of helping him heal went to waste. At some point, she vocally expressed that she is bored. He sent her a puppy, which was as scared as her, to entertain her. It exasperated her that he didn't give it to her personally, but the butler. Her musings stopped as they reached their family manor. Her father asked her to show the man around. While waiting for tea to arrive, she politely refused and excused that she's not feeling well. Her father told her to play something on the piano instead. Again, she declined. On the third time, the man was kind enough to intervene for her, saying he doesn't mind and it was nice to meet her. As she met his kind emerald eyes, she told herself that this was her husband long before he's ruined by misfortune. For a moment she pondered if she should interfere and made sure he doesn't meet such ill fate. Reasoning made her walk away. As she did so, she wished that it was their first and last meeting. It was better for both of them. Still, Destiny had other plans. Her debut in society, at a party to be held in London, they were bound to meet yet again. After her unexpected meeting with the dashing man with emerald eyes, the girl with golden locks immersed herself in managing their fortune and properties, absorbed in saving some of their wealth out of her father's frivolous spending and compulsive gambling. Her father came and informed her of the invitation to the party. She declined. This surprised her father and interpreted her response as a sign of her being unhappy. Furthermore, he uttered that her actions as of late can be considered as refusal to get married, a responsibility she needs to bear to support their family. To her dismay, he even mentioned purchasing a townhouse in London, in which she told her father that he should sell that property and stop his plans of investing in winery. Her latter statement sent him in a frenzy and was told that it was inappropriate for a young lady to meddle in her father's affairs. Unfazed, she threatened him that she will never marry and won't even hesitate to be a nun. Her father relented and heeded her advice. Being a sport, she attended the party. As expected, she wasn't enjoying it as much as her previous self would have, knowing that not long after, war would break out. It was after refusing 6 invitations to dance that the man she's dreading to meet again appeared from her side. Unbeknownst to her, 3 bachelors had been eyeing her and counting the men she's been refusing. One of them was the dashing man she met in her father's carriage, to the surprise of the other 2. The man with the emerald eyes, known for his snobbish air, stood up and walked forward to approach the girl with the golden locks. Champagne on hand, he greeted her and they exchanged vague but intelligent banter her about the frivolities of society, the importance of enjoying the moment. The friendly atmosphere made her accept his invitation to dance and grabbed the opportunity to rain some wisdom on him, hoping that their exchange in that brief moment can shed some light and positively affect his decisions when war breaks out. One dance led to another, until they are in their 4th dance. People started eyeing them and wondering who the blonde girl was and what in the world does she possess to dance with one of the most sought-after bachelors. As his eyes met hers, emerald met azure. He commented how her hands have been shaking the entire time they were dancing, and that she'd been eyeing him with pity. Surprised, she lost a step and stumbled, bumping on a nearby pair. He was quick to assist in her plight. A rose fell from the lady she bumped into and triggered a memory from her past life. She was then 26, and loved tending to roses. The puppy that her husband gifted her is now all grown up, its milky white fur, glossy and shiny. It was a sunny day, and as usual she's taking care of her roses when she noticed some of the blooms have been cut. Some were in the grassy soil. Knowing that her dog won't ever hurt her roses, she wished that her roses brought joy to whomever it was given to. Later that day, her dog went missing. Despite the stormy weather, she went out looking for him. This made the servants and her husband's butler worry for her health. She stubbornly turned a deaf ear to their pleas that she returns inside, uttering that nobody actually cared what happens to her. They just feared their master's wrath. It was only the dog who really feels sympathy for her. Her husband went out and explicitly told her to get inside and that he won't risk anyone getting hurt over a mere animal. Concerned for the dog she so loved, she told him that it was his gift to her. His reply, emphasizing that she gets back inside without any concern for the missing animal, broke her heart. Someone calling her name and asking if she's alright broke the blonde woman's reverie. It was her dance partner, the emerald-eyed man who prevented her from falling when she stumbled while dancing with him. Regaining her composure, she detached herself from his arms and thanked him for their dance. The man with emerald eyes was surprised, albeit disappointed with how she acted despite their dance that lasted for songs. Still, the night is young. Chance is not done being playful. The girl with blonde hair found herself seated right across the dashing man with emerald eyes on the dinner table. Surrendering to the unavoidable occurrences, she's not surprised to find herself at such predicament, but she's not happy to stand witness to his heated argument with a short-haired lady. Not long after, she realized that it was his sister. A wave of nostalgia hit her. Still aged 22, it was during her first months in her husband's manor, she discovered that he is left without a close family relative. His younger brother volunteered for war and died in the front lines. His sister perished in a tragic accident. Her room remained as she left it. The servants made sure that it's in pristine condition. Her piano remained in mint condition along with her handwritten compositions. Out of curiosity, she entered her chambers, fiddled with the piano keys while pondering if her music embraced the manor in warm sunny tones while she was still alive. Rumor has it that his sister's demise on a motored carriage was no accident. It was done intentionally. She and her low-born lover decided to die together when they learned that her noble family won't accept their union. Her room being kept the same was her brother's way of atoning to his guilt. She saw an old photograph in that room, a young woman and a man. He was rumored to be a socialist. Whatever that means, she can't fully fathom. She doesn't know much about politics. Her husband caught her inside his sister's chambers and was told to get out. He looked so pained that she tried to know the circumstances, for she is his wife. All he told her was to never enter that room. She wondered if her scar-faced husband wouldn't be so callous if his sister lived. Back then, she thought they were close and shared a special bond, but seeing them now in a heated exchange proved otherwise. The abrupt movement of the short-haired lady sitting beside the emerald-eyed man made her look up. Seeing her walking away gave her a sudden jolt. If her memory serves her right, the present day is the very day that she died. She chased after the lady and tried reasoning things with her. She scathingly accused her of sucking up to her brother. But the blonde-haired lady told her that it isn't so, that she knows who she is planning to meet and what they were planning to do. The short-haired lady, with eyes the same as the dashing emerald-eye man, looked at her doubtfully. Seeing that she is now listening to her, the lady with the golden locks held her hands and explained that she understands why the lady is exasperated with her brother, that she need not subject herself to his narcissistic views and controlling nature. But what she's planning is foolhardy and would only lead to meaningless tragedy. The blonde lady was reminiscing her own tragic demise as she imparts this to the lady in front of her. It was then that her brother arrived and saw their hands intertwined. He reprimanded the blonde lady for meddling with their family affairs, but his sister butted in and told him off. Seeing that he can't win with his sister's stubbornness, he left, but gave the blonde lady a warning about interfering with matters of somebody else's family. The next day, as the lady with the golden locks skimmed the newspaper, the pages that was once filled with news of the demise of her husband's sister can't be found. She mused that somehow, her fate has been altered. Relief flooded her. She remembered that in the past, after her scar-faced husband drove her away from his sister's chambers, he gifted her with a piano of her own. It felt like it was his way of apologizing. Momentary warmth flooded her heart, but she brushed it aside. It doesn't matter anymore. What she needs to prepare for next is the upcoming social event to be held at a nobleman's country estate. The host of that day's party is a friend of the emerald-eyed man. As she arrived at the event, said man was nowhere to be found, but his friend, the host, was entertaining the guests. Just in her previous life, this man has been overly charming and generous with compliments that single and married women fell prey to his playboy nature. Their host handed her a glass of champagne as they were discussing Vienna. He believes that it's a place that proves humanity can infinitely advance, but the blonde lady had other thoughts, for she knows that the very city their host admires so much will be ravaged by war. The champagne meant for her was intercepted by someone. When she looked up to check who is it, she was surprised to find the man with the emerald eyes in all his splendor, his black hair slicked back elegantly as always. The other guests were surprised as well, not because he was present, but because he came with his sister, the short-haired lady, and his younger brother. It is an unusually pleasant sight to behold. As the siblings made themselves comfortable, the younger brother voiced out that he is not convinced by the host's idea about humanity's advancement. The man with emerald eyes butted in and stated that humans are selfish creatures, their nature is to compete and seek destruction. His statement led his playboy friend to ask if he truly believes there'll be another war, to which he replied that if it's necessary another war is sure to break out. Amidst this discussion, the emerald-eyed man turned to the blonde lady and asked her opinion. She questioned if numerous death and misery justified the innovation and progress of military force, that the reason for wars is because people believe that evil is necessary. Awkward silence prevailed after her statement that openly disagreed with that of the emerald-eyed man's, but he doesn't seem displeased at all. In fact, he looked amused with the way she worded her opinion. To relieve the tension, their host steered the conversation to sports, tennis in particular, in which the man with emerald eyes is known to excel at. Feeling bashful, the blonde lady decided to air off her embarrassment on the balcony. As she was trying to calm down, she was greeted by a scene that warmed her heart. The younger sister of the emerald-eyed man is walking with her socialist low-born lover and is in a tryst. Seeing them together made her wish that she experiences the same kind of love, but that was immediately replaced by worry with the sight of the emerald-eyed man approaching and asking for a conversation with her. Worried for his younger sister, she approached him and took the initiative to strike a conversation by apologizing for the way she meddled with his sister's affair. Surprised by her sudden forward attitude, the man with the emerald eyes retaliated by voicing out his confusion regarding her behavior during their past encounters. It's as if she hated him, but he hopes that her resentment doesn't run deep, because he already decided not to hold back when it comes to her. His words made her feel warm inside. The way he stands in front of her made her feel as if he is shielding her from the cold wind of the late afternoon, but the way his form cast shadows on her made her reminisce that time when she was 25. When the horror of being confined in their marital manor became too much for her to bear, that she ran away with her dog in the middle of the night. She ended up in London and staying in luxurious lodgings. Her nights were spent watching sappy movies about being family despite not being blood-related. One night, as she was pondering about what to do with her laundry and where to buy food for her dog, a telegram was slipped under her lodging's door. It was from her husband, telling her that he'll wait for her at the station. Surprisingly, relief flooded her, knowing that he cares for her just a little, even if half of her wanted to run away from him. It made her wonder if part of her was indeed dependent of him. This memory made her think if there is no way for a lady to live comfortably without an inheritance or being married off. It made her resent her inability to remember stocks worth investing from her past life. Late nights and musings don't do well together, especially when you're at a party and sitting by yourself. It made her sleepy. Fortunately, the emerald-eyed man saw as her head was drooping and caught her by the forehead. To ease her embarrassment, she jokingly said that her studies are keeping her, to which he asked her if she was studying ancient Greek. She half-jokingly agreed and said that it's almost similar to Greek tragedy, while mentally referring to their chicken scratch ledger, which was actually keeping her awake at night. Spontaneity made her utter that it was her contemplation of how to sustain herself that was keeping her awake at night. It surprised the emerald-eyed man and commented that it doesn't seem like a noble woman should worry about. He was on point when he guessed that the reason for her worries is her father, and she wasn't surprised that her father's frivolities had reached London. Out of concern, the man with the emerald eyes advised her to think practically and find someone else to resolve her issues rather than agonizing over it. This exchange made her remember her old self, married to the callous, scar-faced husband to whom she relied to. It prompted her to ask the emerald-eyed man if ever he experienced hating himself so much that he began to despise others as well. The man wondered why such question was thrown at him by the blonde lady and asked why would he hate himself. Genuine laugh graced her pretty lips. But it wasn't out of sarcasm, she admired his confidence. The atmosphere between them became light and positively fluffy when all of a sudden somebody came rushing through the door to announce that her father has gone bankrupt. Overcome with worry that her father might commit the same tragic end in her current life, the blonde lady rushed home, only to find out that he's bedridden and enjoying a bowl of food while his butler is spoon-feeding him. Relief flooded her. Bankrupt though he was, at least her father is alive. She can still help him in this life. She suggested to her father to sell their properties to pay off some of their debts and work for the remaining amount, but her father won't have any of it. He badgered her to get married, to which she vehemently said no. It is when her father mentioned the emerald-eyed man, which was her husband in her past life, that she somewhat relented. She'll try to marry anyone but him. One night, on a party hosted by an old nobleman, she was insulted by the host himself. He asked her for a dance even if he was obviously drunk. She politely refused, to which the old man retaliated by insulting her, commenting that being 17, she is ripe for the taking, and that there's a multitude of men more than willing to rescue her from their family's plight. Trying to avoid a scene, she decided to accept his insults, but the man with the emerald eyes had other plans. He suddenly appeared by her side and ordered the old man to turn up the music. Even when his playboy friend commented on his behavior, he openly showed his animosity to their host, making it clear that he heard what the old man said to the blonde lady and he is utterly displeased. Seeing the awkward situation, the blonde girl is in. The sister of the man with the emerald eyes grabbed her and made an excuse that she needed her help looking at dress catalogs. Away from the gentleman, the sister of the emerald-eyed man told her that her brother is planning to invite the blonde lady to their manor sometime soon. Which means he is seriously considering to take her hand in marriage. A wave of worry flooded her being. It's as if history is repeating itself, pulling her in the same situation she's trying to run away from. The fated invitation came not for her father, but for her. It came not from the current head of the manor, but from the firstborn son, the dashing man with emerald eyes and elegantly slicked back black hair. When they arrived at their manor, they were greeted by his parents and the man himself who sent her the invitation. It was her first time meeting his parents, for in her previous lifetime, misfortune already hit her husband's family. His father died of an illness, his mother already passed away. His father looked cold in his painting, but up close, he looks kind albeit sickly. His mother is elegant and charming. The inside of the manor is a stark contrast to what she lived in as his wife in her previous life. It was bright and homely. It didn't have the gloomy air she's used to. It has a welcoming atmosphere that seemed to touch one's soul. Dinner came and went. They were enjoying a hot cup of tea in the parlor. She was wondering how can she bring up the topic of asking their family for financial assistance when she heard his father suggested that they leave them for a while by themselves. As soon as the door closed behind their parents, she stood up only to find the emerald-eyed man standing as well right in front of her and kneeled on one knee. He asked her to marry him. Stunned that their lives are yet again to get intertwined, the blonde lady stared at the man with emerald eyes in disbelief. It wasn't love that he's asking her hand in marriage. She's pleasant, he said, level-headed, clever, more responsible than her father. When she still won't relent, he cited her aim to be independent, that she needed him in order to do so. Their union would be beneficial for her considering their current financial situation. As she laid down the benefits of such marriage, she saw a glimpse of his crazed gaze. It scared her out of her wits, reminiscing the sensation of being shackled to her husband's controlling nature from her past life. Refusing to be sold off in marriage in exchange for their debts, she openly rejected his proposal. When he asked for a reason, she told him that they can never be together for they tear each other down. Even if this emerald-eyed man, who was her scar-faced husband in her previous life, has yet to do anything wrong, to hope for a lasting and peaceful relationship with this man is impossible. As she walked away from him, she remembered a day from when she was 26 years old and married to him. It rained hard the previous night, and her dog was yet to be found. Forced by her Scarface husband to get back inside the manor, she exhausted herself crying the whole night. Dawn crept up the horizon and a knock came from her bedroom door. It was her husband's butler with her dog. He told her that the gardener found her dog by looking for it all night amidst the heavy downpour, but is in good health. When she offered to thank the gardener personally, the butler told her that he was just doing his duty. However, she is not to go upstairs in the meantime for his master. Her Scarface husband is down with cold. The doctor prescribed him full bed rest. Having a gut feel, but reasoning told her it's impossible, she decided to visit the second floor just to make sure that her husband is all right. What she saw stunned her and gave her a flood of mixed emotions. A coat hung solely by the coat rack, drenched and dripping. Disbelief flooded her face. It was her husband who found her dog, and now he's down with cold and burning up with fever. Overcome with worry, she rushed to his bedside. Initially, he thought it was his deceased sister that visited him in his room. Much to her surprise, when she told him it's her, his wife, he gave her a warm smile. It touched her heart. Warmth entered her very being when she saw his bedside table. Now she knows he's been cutting blooms from her garden. As she tended to him, she witnessed his PTSD episodes. She patiently looked after him and held his hand the whole time to calm him down. He was equally surprised to find his wife by his bedside. When his fever abated, she was obviously taking care of him. As to why she would do such a thing, he doesn't know. Fondness flooded him, but he canceled it out in a split second, knowing he had no right to harbor such feelings, because he has blood on his hands. Theirs was just a marriage of convenience, a scarred husband for a flawed wife. He is drenched in blood from war, while she is a knave and innocent noblewoman. He feared that he might drag her in his own personal hell. She woke up and saw him looking at her. Awkward air prevailed. They tried breaking it by having a small talk. One topic led to another and he ended up telling her that she's allowed to go wherever she fancies, that his callous attitude and previous attempts to limit her outdoor activities were his way of protecting her from danger. Puzzled by his sudden change of heart, but feeling somewhat happy, she decided to leave his bedroom. He asked her to summon his butler on her way out. As she was going out of the door, she told her husband that he is allowed to take as much blooms as he wanted, that the rose garden she tends to is also his. This heartwarming exchange made her believe, one last time, that there's still hope to mend their relationship. Days went by and the blonde-haired wife can be seen going in and out of her scar-faced husband's study. There's a friendlier atmosphere between them. At one time, when she asked how he's feeling, he was polite enough to reply, something that he never does, for when he is asked about his health, he usually brushes it off. When his wife saw a book she fancies in his study, she apologized for being forward, but he assured her that the books in his study is also hers. She can come and go anytime, just like what she told him that her garden is also his. Having access to his work area, she saw that her husband is not getting much relaxation time. She decided to host a movie viewing party, to which he nonchalantly agreed to. He gave her the responsibility of the preparations as he sends out invitations to fellow nobles and some commoners. The day of the party arrived and the blonde-haired wife is getting anxious that her scar-faced husband found it difficult to face their guests considering his marred looks. But he was just naturally late. To her surprise, he showed up, oozing with charm and grace. he greeted their guests majestically and introduced himself nobly. When he reached her side, he offered her his arm and walked towards the enclosure she made as the screening room. She commented on how his arm is shaking, but he politely brushed it aside and said he's fine, he wouldn't miss watching the movie with her. But his PTSD have other plans. As the movie starts, the flickering lights caused her husband to have seizures. Fortunately, there is a doctor around and tended to him. Grateful for his presence at that time, little did she know that he'll be the cause of the events that will lead to her demise. Back to present day. Some time has passed since she refused the marriage proposal from the man with emerald eyes. War has broken, and chivalrous men volunteered for the front lines. Just like in her previous life, the emerald-eyed man and his younger brother enlisted for the war. Those who refused to risk their lives were labeled cowards. At this point, the blonde-haired noblewoman's fortune has depleted. Her father turned into a drunkard, their townhouse sold. They needed to find another place as their abode. He verbally abuses her for her failure to get married and accepting the marriage proposal of the emerald-eyed man. As her father mentioned him, she pondered that if it's the last time she'll see him, it'd be best to talk to him and tell him something for the last time. Her musings led her to remember the past. It was right after the movie viewing that her scar-faced husband's psychological treatment started. The man who introduced himself as a doctor turned out to be a member of the Royal Society of Medicine and is an expert with treating men from war that are suffering from PTSD. Despite the worries of her husband's butler, the blonde-haired woman chose to endure seeing her husband's treatment, even if it looks difficult to look at, if it meant that he'll get better and overcome his trauma of war. Naively, she put her trust in him and his experimental psychological treatments. One time as she was tending to her husband after his treatment, they talked. They were both hopeful that he'll get better. Vague plans of being together were made for the future. But the doctor had other plans. He explicitly told her not to enter his bedchambers right after the treatment, that he needs to overcome the aftermath of each session by himself. Further treatment barred her from seeing her husband altogether. Communication between him and her were done through the doctor. In exchange, she was given updates on her husband's condition. She was gullible. She believed that his agonized screams were signs of improvement. When her scar-faced husband was allowed to get out of his bedchambers and work on his nobleman's duties, she accompanied him to his study, like they usually did. She tried striking a conversation with him, but all he did was answer coldly, devoid of any emotion. When she tried once more, he told her to get out and never enter his study again. She was distracting him, he said. Puzzled by his change in attitude, she confronted the doctor. Little did she know, this was the opportunity that the doctor was waiting for. He brazenly told her that he is already cured, but he can never be cured the way she wanted him to be. Shock filled her face, but the doctor went on. He told her that isn't it about time she had enough suffering. He sees so much potential in her when he witnessed how she patiently and lovingly cared for her husband. Look of utter disbelief replaced her shock. Seeing that she's not buying it, the doctor asked her to run away with him to study as a nurse. It'll serve as her revenge for being shackled and confined in the manor. Just like any manor owned by nobles, the walls have ears and servants are gossips. The exchange between her and her husband's doctor were heard loud and clear by an eavesdropping maid. Ugly gossips about the blonde-haired lady spread through the manor like wildfire, that her leaving 2 years ago in the middle of the night was the start of her affair with the doctor. These gossips didn't escape her husband's ears. The last straw was when the scar-faced man heard the maids pitying him. Mentally fragile, he was unable to process the rumors properly. All he did was believe them and doubt all the positive things that his wife did for him. He doubted her sincerity, He believed that her infidelity rooted from the day that she tended to him after he got sick looking for her dog amidst the heavy rain, that her concern was just a mask to hide her strong desire to escape the manor and leave him. Drunk, he confronted his wife callously when she came to visit him and reminded him that he shouldn't be drinking since his treatment is coming to an end. He lashed at her, accused her of being ungrateful for all the things he did for her, for taking advantage of his good graces. Desperate to make him understand, she held his face only to have her hand swatted vehemently. He put her in her place, unwanted, unloved, insignificant. He subjected her to life of seclusion, to live as his wife, beneath his shadow, despite his callousness. She tried her best to understand his behavior. In her bedroom, she pondered why he said those things, what made him think so negatively of her actions. In her reverie, the doctor suddenly entered her room and handed her the latest report on her husband's treatment. Grateful for his earnest attempt to inform her of her husband's condition, she reprimanded the doctor for coming to her personal quarters in the middle of the night without prior appointment. It is improper for a man to come see the lady of the house other than the reception room. The doctor informed her that he was in a hurry, for her husband has ordered him out of the manor. Thus, he'll be leaving that same day. Seeing an opportunity, the doctor once again offered her to run away with him, using the potential he sees in her as a nurse as an excuse to persuade her. This enraged the blonde-haired noblewoman and told the doctor to stop insulting her and her husband, but the doctor was relentless. He pitied her and didn't mince words expressing it. He told her that he'll be the last man, the only man who would bother to offer her an escape. Unfazed, she remained silent, but the doctor's tirade went on. He attacked her where it hurt the most. He told her that the only love her husband gave her was imprisonment, that by believing that he'll love her eventually, is a form of cruelty she imposes on herself. The blonde-haired lady felt daggers stabbing her heart. She cried and started to crumple. Seeing her vulnerability, the doctor approached her and hugged her from behind, asking her if, knowing there's no chance of being loved in return by her husband, would she still opt to stay. Out of confusion, hurt, and desperation, she said that she wanted to come with him. This is the scene that her husband witnessed. It's as if on cue, the doctor vanished from the scene, leaving her with the mad rage of her husband. All she could do was watch him approach her, felt nothing but disgust when he grabbed her wrist, her desire to run away reaching boiling point. This is what happened prior to her demise, on that tragic night, right before her life looped back into her 17-year-old self. Present day, war has already started. The 17-year-old blonde-haired looper has arrived at the family manor of the man with emerald eyes. Drenched in the rain, she waited outside. A servant told her to leave, but she refused to do so. The servant had no choice but to send her to a gazebo to shelter her from the rain. Unknown to her, the master of the manor, the father of the emerald-eyed man, is in dire condition. He might not make the night. The whole family is in a turmoil. The sister is in a frantic state, begging their younger brother to cancel his enlistment, getting overly worried for their older brother who got properly enlisted and highly probable to be drafted on the battlefield. The younger brother is unwilling to relent, for he already requested to be drafted away from the front lines, in consideration for their sister, an action akin to cowardice, but still it acts as service to one's country. Getting a hold of the situation, and acting how an eldest son should, the emerald-eyed man handled the situation and broke the tension. He instructed their sister to take care of their mother and herself. Being obviously brushed off, the younger sister shouted her disagreement. Their mother, who at the moment is flooded with worry for their father, immediately snapped back to her noblewoman mode and lady of the house demeanor. She calmly reprimanded the short-haired lady and reminded her that their father can hear her. Seeing that their mother regained her composure, the eldest son excused himself. Having a momentary peace, the man with the emerald eyes went to his quarters. Sitting languidly on a sofa, he pondered about the things that will transpire once their father passed away. He and his younger brother will be away for war. Their younger sister will be left behind to take care of their mother and matters concerning their manor. His thoughts flew to the events that transpired regarding the blonde-haired lady who jilted him. At first, he really viewed her as nothing but a normal young noblewoman with rainbows and butterflies inside her head, but the more he encountered her, he's left wanting more.